Hi everyone, welcome to Regulatory Rewind on April the 16th, Reg Rewind number 11, here with Parity Legal. And I am very happy to bring you here today with my colleagues Gustav and Jamil, and we're going to talk about the latest regulatory news. Starting off with our usual disclaimer, which is we are Parity Legal lawyers. We are lawyers, but we're not your lawyers. And we also don't give legal advice or any financial advice. And moving swiftly on, I'm going to pass over to Gustav to talk about Europe.
Hello, thank you, Eva. I would like to start with news from Google, who will use a new policy for advertising cryptocurrency exchanges and software wallets in the EU, starting from April 23rd this year. From then on, all advertisers must be licensed as crypto asset service providers under MiCA, comply with local law, and be Google certified. And what is really interesting about it is not only that Google wants to comply with MiCA, but that they are actually going a bit further than MiCA actually does, because their policy is going to be applicable for all kind of wallets, it seems, while self-hosted wallets are not covered by the MiCA regulation. So it seems that self-hosted wallets will then be excluded from advertising, because on the one hand, they cannot be licensed under MiCA because they don't fall under it. And on the other hand, Google is not allowing them to advertise anymore. So that is interesting. It's restrictions going further than MiCA itself. Maybe it's also a misunderstanding. Maybe they will clarify, but that's something that's noteworthy. Next, I want to jump to an interesting service post someone did a few days ago about 100 days status update on the MiCA regulation in Europe. So it seems there were 11 entities across the EU who issued e-money tokens, who got an authorization through MiCA. And there are 16 e-money token issued in total, mainly euro and dollar denominated. There are 15 MiCA authorized CASPs, crypto asset service providers, that are operating from 6 different EU countries, with Germany and Malta being the leading numbers. There's no asset reference token authorized yet, but there seems quite a few firms are listed as non-compliant by the Italy's authority. And there are approximately 25 white papers who have been notified for other crypto assets. So it seems that the regulation is being seen as something to find means to comply with, and that people want to use, especially the passporting across European Union countries. Next, I want to jump shortly into Sweden, where a member of parliament has proposed incorporating Bitcoin as a national foreign exchange reserve, suggesting it mainly to hedge against inflation and as a freedom-preserving payment method with people in authoritarian regimes. As you surely are aware, that mirrors a bit what the United States does, while the EU itself is still largely silent on legislation like that, and is primarily focused on issuing a digital euro through the European Central Bank, which is probably going to happen in October. So very different concepts that are present in Europe, depending on the level that we're talking about. So that's from EU Europe, and with that, over to the UK and Eva.
The UK, not Europe. Very much enjoying these the imagery there and the kind of race to a strategic Bitcoin reserve, Gustav. So over in the UK, so this is a continuation of the Apple encryption row. So some of you might be like, oh, Polkadot, why do we care about Apple's encryption? Are we doing phones? No. Why is this important? It's an important case because it's part of a much bigger and wider discussion in the tech industry, and we are ultimately in the tech industry, and we look at all the other things that are happening, including AI, including other forms of technology that might impact blockchain and what we do. So encryption is obviously the backbone of blockchain and digital ledger technology, and privacy, which is also part of this row with Apple and other governments, is privacy related and the fundamental Web3 philosophy. And this also ties in with this ongoing balance of law enforcement versus emerging technologies. And in this case, I've talked about it before because Apple has been subject to, not just in the UK, but also in the US and other governments seeking to have access to data that is on its users' mobile phones, and as a platform provider, as a very large tech giant, you can imagine how much information Apple holds and how law enforcement might want to have access to such data. And this is one of many battles that Apple has been fighting. And the latest was that it had an advanced data protection system, but the Home Office in the UK has sought a legal action to get a backdoor to Apple's data. Therefore, Apple had to withdraw the ADP. And the latest ruling was that the government lost its case in the UK tribunal, because the UK tribunal said that the ongoings, the hearings and the information being exchanged on this case should be made public. It was actually being held not in secret, but not in public. So a number of reporting agencies, news reporting organizations got together and wanted to have these hearings made public so that they could report on what the government was arguing as to why it should have access to Apple through a backdoor. So this is a big sort of civil liberties, human rights, and privacy aspects that we don't always necessarily talk about in Regulatory Rewind, but it is very important, because if there is a backdoor, then there is a potential to security vulnerabilities, and encryption is weakened as a general principle. So that's the UK. It's also happening in the EU. There is a organization that in the EU, Australia, Brazil, France, and others trying to get through Apple and access user data. I think we will find out more about what they're discussing and how it might impact encryption and blockchain in the future. But now at least we know that there will be reports about it and it will be disclosed to the public. Moving on, I will talk briefly about something that happened today. The next slide, please. This looks like a tweet from the leader of the House of Commons, and it talks about a House of Commons meme coin. This turned out not to be a real thing. Their account had been hacked, and this had been posted, and a meme coin does exist out there, but it is not a real House of Commons meme coin. So it's not something that you would necessarily expect to see normally in normal circumstances. However, given this year, we've had various political leaders launch their own meme coins in both the US and in Argentina, or related to promoting meme coins in other countries. It is perhaps surprising, but also not surprising that people might have fallen for this. There was some trading on this, and it did have a number of transactions, but it was stopped pretty promptly. It's also not the first time that politicians' accounts, X accounts, have been hacked. And there was in March, the Ghanaian president had a similar breach, with attackers taking over his accounts for 48 hours to promote a scam cryptocurrency called Solana Africa. Good name, but not a real cryptocurrency, we understand. So that is all the news this week for the UK, I will now move myself quickly over to Asia and cover some of the Asian stories. The first country I'm going to cover is Pakistan. And the reason why I'm talking about Pakistan is I really like this picture, actually, because it took me a while to realize, oh, why does that coin look so sad? I realized it's actually being used for money laundering. It's in the laundromat. I'm like, I get it. Clever, clever, clever. Pakistan. Last week, I reported that the CZ of Binance was being appointed as a strategic advisor to the PCC, the Pakistan Crypto Council. And this is following off the earlier on in the year when Pakistan introduced a virtual assets bill. The news last week was that Pakistan has introduced its first comprehensive policy framework to regulate virtual assets and virtual asset service providers, marking a significant step to integrating digital finance into the national economy. So this, quote unquote, is a paradigm shift in how Pakistan views digital finance. So the policy seeks to strike a historic balance between technological advancement and national security imperatives. So this is an ongoing story. Watch this space. Industry race in Asia to see which of those Southeast Asian countries are going to dominate in the industry next. Still one of the leaders, Hong Kong. Next story is about Hong Kong and a follow-up to last week's story where I talked about how at the Web3 Festival, the Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission published guidance on licensed virtual asset trading platforms offering staking services on licensed digital assets. So the news is now that following that statement and following those rules, this is a license obtained by Hashkey, which is one of the leading exchanges in Hong Kong, that they now have regulatory approval to provide staking services. And this is one of the first, it claims, of such entities being able to offer these services. So this means that they can take the lead in offering staking services for spot Ether ETFs. And this means that Hong Kong is ahead of the curve in allowing ETF investors to earn a passive yield on their digital assets. In the US, the SEC greenlit spot Ether ETFs last year, but it didn't include staking strategies. So this is a move on the part of Hong Kong to, again, industry race, to be there, to embrace the industry and propel itself in that space. The next story is in Thailand. So this story is essentially about how countries are still struggling to hit that right balance between closing down and shutting down some of the bad actors in the industry, but also still trying to maintain innovation and through regulation in its territories. So this one was these are new rules to try and block bad actors in the space, and it means that there's jail terms of up to 3 years and a 300,000 baht fine if there's unregulated platforms in Thailand that are operating without license. So despite this clampdown, on the other hand, Thailand is still doing more in terms of adoption than some other countries. So they're creating their own blockchain-based trading platform for security firms. They're considering a Bitcoin payment sandbox to test crypto tourism payments in Phuket later this year. So that's pretty exciting stuff. I am now going to hand it over to the Middle East and Africa to be covered by Jamil. Thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Hello, everyone. So in the Middle East and Africa, we start with Nigeria, which it feels like we mention Nigeria every week, obviously a very key jurisdiction in the continent of Africa. So with Nigeria, they're poised to exit the Financial Action Task Force, the FATF, the grey list of the FATF following the enactment of the Investments and Securities Act 2025. Now, as for the FATF, we've mentioned this task force before. So it stands for the Financial Action Task Force. As a reminder, it started as an intergovernmental organization in 1989 as a G7 initiative to develop policies to combat money laundering and to maintain certain interests in this sphere. And in 2001, its mandate was expanded to include terrorism financing. So that's the FTAF. The legislation in Nigeria, signed by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, classifies virtual assets and investment contracts as securities, addressing previous deficiencies in the country's anti-money laundering, or AML, and counter-terrorism financing, CTF, frameworks that led to its grey listing in 2023. So the new law enhances transparency and grants the Nigerian SEC equivalent, the Securities and Exchange Commission, greater regulatory authority over the crypto sector, and is expected to attract investment by signaling Nigeria's commitment to protecting legitimate crypto operations. From Nigeria, we move on to Kenya. The Kenyan Treasury has introduced a virtual assets service providers bill to Parliament, aiming to regulate the country's crypto sector. The proposed legislation seeks to empower the Capital Markets Authority and the Kenyan Central Bank to oversee crypto exchanges and service providers, ensuring compliance with international standards on anti-money laundering and customer identification. This marks a significant shift from Kenya's previously hands-off approach to cryptocurrency regulation. And this article also mentions Nigeria again, actually. So the Nigerian government has postponed its $2 billion tax evasion lawsuit against cryptocurrency exchange Binance to the end of April. The case, which has been ongoing for a year, which we've covered previously on Reg Rewind, involves allegations of unpaid taxes by the crypto exchange. The delay continues the legal uncertainty surrounding Binance's operations in the country of Nigeria. Over in Cameroon, Douala is set to host the Bitcoin Africa conference, highlighting the country's growing interest in blockchain technology. And the event aims to bring together industry leaders, policymakers, and enthusiasts to discover the future of cryptocurrency and blockchain adoption in Africa. Now, from the Middle East and Africa, I would like to hand over to Gustav on Central and South America. Gustav?
Thank you, Jamil. I would like to jump into Argentina. In Argentina, the Congress has approved investigation into top officials regarding the Libra crypto scandal, which has troubled President Milei's administration for a while now. There's a special commission that will be formed to probe the issue, and additionally, an Argentina lawyer has requested the international arrest of a crypto entrepreneur, Hayden Davis, believed to be a key figure in the cryptocurrency's collapse. Initially, it was promoted to boost economic growth, but then the Libra token experienced a rapid crash, and it seems quite a lot of people involved in Argentina. Next, I want to go to the north, to Canada, and talk about the upcoming election there. Pierre Poilievre, a Bitcoin advocate, is running against Prime Minister Mark Carney. He supports Bitcoin and expressed the beliefs that the Canadians should have the freedom to use alternative currencies due to government mismanages of the Canadian dollar, as he says. In contrast, Carney is critical of Bitcoin and supports the central bank digital currency for Canada. Polls and prediction markets currently say that Carney is going to be more likely to win, reflecting his growing popularity, also due to his response to US tariffs impacting Canada. Maybe one little sidestep on this, because talking about votes, there's also going to be votes in Australia. They're having federal elections on May 3rd, where crypto is not such a big issue. They are more concentrated on cost of living and healthcare, which is also super important. But Coinbase recently urged Australia to support crypto reforms in the federal election and warns that the lack of regulation is pushing talent and capital to other countries. Especially, they propose 5 measures, including forming a crypto task force and clarifying tax regulation. So let's see if the candidates will live up to the hopes of Coinbase. but this is how Coinbase tries to intervene in Australia. And that was that from the non-US side of the Americas. And with that, over to Eva to the US.
Thanks, Gustav. Obviously, we noted last year internally, so not to everybody else, but it was a really big election year for many countries, and including the UK and the US. And it wasn't necessarily the case that crypto was a election mentioned much or weighed in heavily much on the elections in many countries. I think most notably where it has had an impact has been in the US. So while I'm going to cover the US and some of the lawmaking efforts in the US, and the headlines is a continuation. There is a progress being made around how digital assets are to be regulated in the US. We've been going on about this for 2 years now, and the latest news story on the slide is about Senator Tim Scott saying he's confident that a market structure bill will be passed by August. It's about half the year, but legislation takes a long time. Policymakers need to be educated. And I thought it might be quite a good reminder of what a market structure bill might be. So a market structure bill is legislation that is aimed at creating a regulatory framework for a specific type of market, in this case, digital assets. In the context of crypto, it is about which agency will oversee what types of digital assets would they be considered a security or a commodity, and in that case, whether this what the SEC does to regulate and what the CFTC does to regulate will be a massive determining factor in how the industry will work out. The goal is to provide some clarity and consistency once it is clear who is regulating what and how. Now, why it's important is that the timings of this, it does take time, and the speed of things is actually quite notable, because last Wednesday there were in fact 2 meetings being had in different parts of the lawmaking entities in the US. So I pulled them up, the official links. You can actually go and watch the entire thing. I think they're a few hours long. The first one was a hearing entitled "American Innovation and the Future of Digital Assets Aligning the US Security Laws for the Digital Age." And it's you can see that there's lawyers there, there's blockchain associations, there's representatives from blockchains and ecosystems, and these hearings tend to have evidence from those members from the industry members around what kind of use cases there are, and whether something should be considered a security or commodity and how it should be regulated. So that was in the morning last Wednesday. And then in the afternoon, next slide please, was a hearing about the American Innovation and the Future of Digital Assets On-Chain Tools for an Off-Chain World. So similarly, it would have had a similarly illustrious list of people from Consensus, from law firms, and from industry bodies providing witness evidence. And this is similar to what the General Legal Officer, Chief Legal Officer of the Web3 Foundation, Daniel, provided back in 2023, which led to the FIT21 bill that was passed as legislation in the House, but didn't actually make it all the way through the Senate. So FIT21 is the bill that is most likely to be the market structure bill in some form or another, with some amendments. So going from lawmaking, I wanted to talk about, Gustav is going to talk about some law unmaking. So the impact of the new administration in the US, what things are being undone, not just being done.
Yes, thank you. So I want to talk shortly about DeFi broker rule that Trump decided to overturn. it was seen as a significant victory for decentralized finance protocol. The rule originally from the Biden administration would have expanded reporting requirements to include DeFi platforms, compelling them to disclose transaction details to the IRS. And the measure was set off to take effect in 2027. Transaction now signed on April 10th marked the first time a crypto-related bill was signed into US law. Proponents argued that the rule would have hindered American innovation and overwhelmed the IRS with new filings, which is, of course, in context with the cuts that they're currently doing, a very realistic view. And next, I want to just quickly point to an opinion piece on deregulation and the Trump family, which I found in The Guardian on the next slide exactly. And I just recommend to read. It's interesting how they tie deregulation and conflict of interest together and pinpoint to the Trump family being heavily invested in the sector, especially through World Liberty Financials, and that the deregulation that Trump is currently after in the American system is probably also mostly connected to own profits of the family and not so much in a democratic or public interest, as you would have seen that in other governments. So just read if you're interested. And with that, I would give over to Jamil to take a closer look at New York.
Thank you, Gustav. We actually mentioned New York last week, looking at the kind of state level. We covered a story about New York's proposal to use blockchain to safeguard election results. Similarly, this week, a New York lawmaker has introduced Assembly Bill A7788, aiming to allow state agencies to accept cryptocurrency payments for various obligations, including fines, taxes, and fees. The bill specifies that payments could be made using Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Bitcoin Cash. And to offset transaction costs, the state of New York may impose a service fee not exceeding the expenses incurred from processing these crypto payments. The legislation reflects New York's growing interest in integrating digital assets into public services and follows similar initiatives in other states in America. Moving on from the US, I want to touch on our noteworthy story of the week. So over in Scotland, we have Lomond School, which is a private day and boarding institution in Helensburgh, Scotland, which is a few hours from Glasgow. They've become the first school in the UK to accept Bitcoin for tuition payments. We have an article linked in the next slide. The initiative from the Lomond School aims to respond to requests from both local and international families, students they have, and aims to mitigate currency risks for overseas students. The school will initially convert Bitcoin payments into pounds, partnering with FCA-registered providers such as Coin Corner and Muscat, and may consider holding a Bitcoin reserve in the future. Strict anti-money laundering procedures and KYC protocols will accompany cryptocurrency payments to ensure financial transparency and compliance with UK financial regulations. I just wanted to have this set against something we've discussed last week and the previous week by me and Chrissy. We mentioned the head of the Financial Conduct Authority in the UK and the governor of the Bank of England sharing some quite conservative views on crypto and being quite dismissive of digital assets. It's quite interesting that a conservative fees-paying educational institution in Scotland have quite a different view on digital assets. Yeah, that's quite an interesting backdrop against what we've seen of late. So that's our noteworthy story of the week in Scotland. And Eva, you can do the honors of closing this week.
Thank you very much, Jamil. I just think it's quite interesting that we in the countryside more than the mountains, there may potentially be a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So thank you very much, Jamil, Gustav, and the team for helping us out in producing this episode again. And we hope you've enjoyed it. And we will be back next week with more interesting news in the regulatory world. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.